Today we are starting lesson 3 of Excel Expert, which deals with pivot tables. And you may say, what in the world is a pivot table? Well, a pivot table is a way to quickly summarize large amounts of data and answer any unanticipated questions, and so on and so forth. So this worksheet should be open, the sales pivot table worksheet. This is the 98th time I've done this lesson. I had an issue with my computer where it was marking the first step wrong, which I know I was doing it right, and I contacted Jasper Active, and it's the version of Excel that's on my computer. Hopefully your computer will be different, because I did it on a student computer and it marked it correct. So, and it was the very first step, which is very easy, so I couldn't figure it out. So here we go. There's a lot of data on this. There's over 2,000 rows. It will be difficult to examine that data in its current conditions and identify patterns or trends. Note that the same data values are repeated down each column, but in different combinations and with different amount paid values. This kind of data is ideal for pivot tables. The date, customer number, sale type, and payment type columns contain data values that appear multiple times and are excellent candidates for row or column labels. So select any cell in the table. Doesn't matter where you select, as long as you're in the table. Click the Insert tab and then click Pivot Table. Notice that the table range is already specified in the Create Pivot Table dialog box because you clicked a cell within the range before executing the Pivot Table command. You can see all this information is up here. It goes from cell A1 to cell E2009. So click OK. The skeleton pivot table is now ready. Notice that Excel has created it in a new worksheet. You're on sheet 2 now. You can put the pivot table into the same worksheet, but you would need to ensure that as the pivot table changes shape, it does not overwrite other cells containing data. So mark, and this is the step that mine kept marking wrong, and it's really not hard. So select the check boxes for the amount paid and payment type. So select those 2 boxes. Turns them on and indicates they're to be used in the pivot table. Excel does not know exactly where you want them, so for now it makes a guess. You can move things around, columns, rows, values, and so on and so forth, and we'll do that in just a second. Go to the next step. Click the check box for the sale type. When you do that, the pivot table is a lot bigger. However, you'll notice the same sale type. For example, bike, tour, car rental tables are repeated under each of the payment types. For example, air miles, Amex, and cash. This table would make more sense if the payment type labels and values were pulled across the columns. So in the pivot table Fields task pane, drag the payment type from rows to columns. So right here, payment type, we're going to click on it and drag it over to the columns. You can see our table looks much different now. Mark as answered. Go to the next one. Click the column labels auto filter button in the pivot table. So right here, it's talking about. So click this button. Deselect the air miles and cash. Air miles and cash, we're going to deselect those to turn them off. And then click OK. These 2 columns no longer appear in the pivot table. Notice that the grand total amounts appearing in the far right have also been adjusted to include only the columns appearing on the screen. To redisplay all of the columns, you would select the Select All checkbox. So click the column labels again. Select the Select All, and then click OK. It turns everything back on. Mark that as answered. Go to the next one. Click the column labels auto filter in the pivot table. Select the Select All box to turn it off. Then select Amex, MasterCard, and Visa, and click OK. Mark that as answered. Submit. Submit. So you should have 5 green checks. If this first one is displayed in red, you just need to let me know and I'll give you credit for it because you have the same issue that I did. So this completes the first lesson of lesson 3.